All right, I'm Madeline Stevens, and today is the 25th of February, 2011.
I'm Brittany Wilkins. I will be interviewing Madeline Stevens here in Snell, at Clarkson University, Snell Hall. Well, thank you for joining me. Really appreciate it. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? How old are you? What school do you attend?
I'm 17. I'm currently a senior at Little River Community School, which is out in Canton. And I'm originally from Pennsylvania, but I've lived pretty much all over the U.S. Right now I live in Hamel Falls, which is not too far from here.
Okay. Tell me a little bit. You said that you moved around a lot. Any particular reason?
Different reason every time, actually. Usually it had something to do with my father's job. We didn't have a consistent pattern, but we usually stay in one house for about 3 years.
Yeah. All right. Great. Cool. Thank you. All right. So, you have been in the newspaper of the, I believe it was the Watertown Times.
I think so.
And pretty much it just started. Can you tell me about how it started? What were the kind of conditions that led you to say, hey, we need a gay straight alliance at this school?
All right. Last year, towards the end of the year, I was attending Potsdam Central High School, which is where the GSA is. And I was pretty sure by the time that I got wind of this project that I was going to be transferring schools. But when I heard that we were going to be starting a GSA, I decided that I definitely wanted to help, even if I had to come back on specific days of the week. Because I've been working with LGBT issues since 7th grade, I think. I started with just participating in National Day of Silence every year, and when I heard that there was going to be a GSA, I really felt like that would be a fantastic thing because it would allow me to get more involved, to hear more about the specific issues that we have around here, which mostly revolve around bullying, especially in Potsdam, and to help the students of Potsdam, many of whom were my friends.
Okay, great. So you mentioned bullying, and I'm sure you were aware of the recent incidents, like with Tyler Clementi and Matthew Shepard. How did those events kind of shape or strengthen your views? Did it hit you hard? Like, how did you take that news? How did you receive it?
Definitely. I try to keep up with those kind of things, just pretty much through the internet. But when I heard about the recent rash of young adult suicides, which not necessarily Matthew Shepard, but Tyler Clementi and the other names escape me, we at the GSA had a specific meeting that revolved around those suicides, and we discussed what we could do to prevent anything like that happening in our school, because we had definitely had problems with people being harassed in the past. We have had students in our population there who have committed suicide, whether or not for LGBT bullying related reasons is unclear. But we decided to move forward with a campaign of education primarily. We got the entire, I believe it was freshman, sophomore, and seniors. Juniors had something else that day. We got most of the student body together and showed them a film called Bullied, which told the story of true story of a teenage boy who was bullied from about 4th grade up, and he won a significant lawsuit against his school about the bullying because they had sanctioned it. So we started the campaign off with that. We put posters up all around the school. We had people sit outside the lunchroom and offer brochures for PFLAG and the Trevor Project. Just did whatever we could to spread the word that we don't want this happening here.
Can you talk to me a little bit about PFLAG and the Trevor Project?
Well, the Trevor Project is it's an organization founded specifically to prevent LGBT teen suicide. That's their biggest focus, and they're the only group of that nature, at least in our country, I'm pretty sure. They have a hotline which teens in crisis can call They have an interesting website. It's based off of MySpace. It's called Trevor Space, and it's for LGBT teens to log online, create accounts, and connect with each other so that they feel less isolated in their own individual situations, whatever those would be. And PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, is an organization founded, I think, just as a basic support group for LGBT people and those who are in their lives. And we have a chapter here in St. Lawrence County. They do a lot of good work. They're associated with the Unitarian Church in Canton and a few other welcoming congregations. They provide outreach. I think they work with Planned Parenthood a bit. And we have had representatives from their chapter come in and talk to us at the GSA about the work that they're doing and the work that we're doing and how we can make it mesh together.
Okay, great. So, since you've had a lot of background and you've been in a lot of places, can you tell me what's significant about the upstate area in terms of resources and LGBT support? Did you find it more difficult because the upstate is usually kind of conservative?
Right. Well, there is definitely a certain amount of small town mentality. I can't tell you too much about how it contrasts with other places because I only really began deeply involving myself with this stuff when I came out myself, which was November before last. But one of the other places that I lived was Houston in Texas, and they had just elected a lesbian mayor, I believe. So, you know, red state, definitely a lot of issues down there with the LGBT thing. But in contrast, it makes us look pretty good about stuff up here. People may not necessarily be comfortable with the idea of LGBT people living in their community, you know, with the whole concept of homosexuality, transgenderness, any of that. But they are not usually overtly hostile. And I think most people understand that there is some need for LGBT resources.
Are you involved with any of the campus organizations? College students should give more outreach to the high school GSAs and kind of strengthen that bridge, since eventually those students from high school will be attending one of the colleges.
Well, I think that Saga and, I don't know your chapter's name.
We're just the gay straight.
Okay, I think that campus organizations do very good work and that there is a need for campus-specific issues to be addressed, but at the same time, for instance, our GSA works with other high school GSAs in the area, and we work with PFLAG, and I think that the more you reach out and talk to people who are in the same struggle as you, the more effective you'll be, because you can cover more ground, so to speak.
You mentioned the high school climate. It's usually traditionally thought that high school kids are going through a lot at that time. Puberty, they're just finding out kind of what kind of relationships they're going to have, what kind of sexual relations they're going to have, what is alcohol going to do with their lives, drugs, different influences. So do you think that poses a significant impact on what the Gay Straight Alliance can do? Because there are a lot of kids who are not really sure, and it's a lot of peer pressure and groups and cliques.
Definitely. We have had to deal with, you know, it's not, as you said, a straightforward issue of sexuality and bullying that might surround that. We also have to deal with alcohol and kids who are very confused about what their direction in life is going to be. We have had a few people in there, experts, to help us deal with those issues and to invite kids who might be feeling very lost into our group and help them, you know, sort of acclimate to the changes going on in their lives. We currently have a program ongoing that not a lot of people are involved in this year, but we hope it will grow. It's an LGBT-focused health class, and it covers suicide awareness, it covers all sorts of, you know, anything a health class might cover in regards to sex, but in a very inclusive way. It covers alcohol and drugs, and every step of the way, the expert who's coming in from the Teenage Task Force, I believe they're based in Watertown, she is not only providing information for us, but resources that can help us cope with these things. Numbers to call if you're in trouble. She has also provided us with, safe sex packages. And
we have those too.
Yeah. So we're working as hard as we can to make sure that, these are the years of our lives when we tend to make a lot of mistakes, and it's maybe okay to do that, but we're trying to make sure that whatever dangers are becoming apparent in teens' lives, drugs, alcohol, guns, all of that, that they are prepared to face those challenges in a way that will allow them to come out on the other side.
Great. Can we talk a little bit more about you and your personal experience with coming out? How was that process for you? How did your family receive the news? How did your classmates? What were kind of the conditions that led you to say, I need to come out, I need to make it known who I am?
Well, it's not a terribly good story in my case, I'm afraid. There's not a lot of excitement.
It's fine.
You hear horror stories about people coming out, and I have heard stories like that from personal friends of mine, but in my case, coming out was very easy. I started to suspect freshman year that I might be gay because boys held no interest for me at all. And I didn't really bring it up with anyone because it didn't seem to matter much at that point. My parents had always made it very clear to me, since I had been involved in gay rights activism, that they had no issue with any of that. And I didn't find this out until later, but I actually have many relatives who are gay. So the family as a whole, extended and all of that, is pretty much inured to the shock. Sophomore year, in the fall, I became a little bit more curious. I guess the hormones kicked in. And I read some books. The internet is not a terribly helpful place to look for information about this. But I eventually came to the tentative conclusion that, yeah, okay, I'm gay. And I think I had already made a point of not associating myself with people who would be like that, because I did believe, even before I suspected this of myself, that it's very much okay to be gay. And, I figured, okay, so I'm gay, I guess the next step is coming out. And I told a few people, and then I told a few more people, and it was a total non-event. When I started attending the GSA meetings at the beginning of this year, actually, several of my friends had completely missed the news, and they said, wait, you're gay? So it was relatively easy for me. I didn't feel like that hurt my self-image in any way, and since I've come out, I've acclimated myself to the idea, and it feels pretty great.
That is great. So, pretty much, even though LGBT rights have their own kind of significant place, and pretty much the drivers of it have been people who are LGBT identified, it's also crucial to have people who are heterosexual kind of get involved with this, because it affects everyone. Can you tell me how the GSA at your school has been getting people of not only the LGBT orientation into this and getting them excited about advocacy?
Right. Well, our school, Potsdam, not my school anymore, everyone is pretty close because there are only 500 students, so we all tend to know each other. And I think that there's a certain benefit to that because, if you hear that a bunch of these people who you've been going to school with forever are gay and they're found in the GSA and they want support, they need to, have help with this work. We have a student body that's very into founding clubs, and there's a lot of political motivation. I think the wide college sort of atmosphere that the town is in has helped with that a lot, because we've got the university work going on, and it sort of filters down into the spirit of the high schools. But you tell the students at Potsdam High School that, we've got this project, we want to work for justice, and this is going to be great, and equality, and all of that. They say, yeah! Some of them, anyway. It's a contentious issue, but the people who are, they believe that what we're doing is right, whether they be straight or not, they know the people who are LGBT and in the GSA, and they want to help them because they're their classmates and their friends, and we get people to the meetings that way.
Great. So obviously with any change or trying to advocate a different perspective, there is some pushback.
Right.
And you mentioned that it's not really as horrible, but can you tell me how the GSA at your school has been able to kind of deal with people who are against what you and your organization has to say?
Right. Well, we have had some horror stories, not so much that I've experienced personally as that other members of the GSA have talked about. We've had problems with bullying, obviously some of it fairly severe. We've had instances where the school administration has sanctioned said bullying, but we're working against that now. The current principal of the high school is very much in support of our cause, and she believes in what we're doing. She's been helping us a lot. I haven't heard of any specific incidents where teachers have had an issue with what we're doing, but she has made it very clear to them, for instance, when they're chaperoning dances, that same-sex couples shall be treated the same as heterosexual couples. She has allowed us a glass case in the hallway where we can put up our posters and such, which keeps them from being defaced. That's been very helpful as well, so the school administration has supported us every step of the way.
Wow, that's so encouraging. Kind of take a blow, it kind of waters down your hope, to be optimistic. So what keeps you optimistic when you kind of see the backlash or you hear the bullying stories?
Well, every Thursday when we get together at the GSA meeting, we sort of discuss not only what we can do for the larger community that we're working in, but we also take time to talk about the members' lives and how things are going, and just offer a supportive atmosphere. And one of the things that I've really noticed throughout the years we've been doing this work is that we have a lot of people who are saying, either they'll say, things are so awful at my house, my parents don't tolerate this at all, and I get bullied in the hallways, and this is the one place where I can come, and you guys are all so nice to me. Or they'll say, look at the change, look at this. Our lives have been so much better since we started the GSA. We've got this place we can come to, and we're spreading the word, and I think some people are finally starting to get it. And every week I hear about the positive effects that our GSA work has had.
It does keep you optimistic. The GSA and PFLAG have done outreach with local religious institutions, congregations. Have you had any priests, pastors, people who work within the church come and talk to the GSA members or anything like that?
We have not had them come in and talk to us. I have contacted Reverend Catanzaro, actually, at the Canton Episcopal Church about an event I'm hoping to hold this spring, and he has offered very generously the Canton Park, which is the church's front lawn. So I'm working with him. We are going to organize a sort of rally around the National Day of Silence, wherein we hope to have many churches and local organizations attend, and we want to foster an atmosphere of respect regardless of one's individual beliefs on the issue.
That's great. Can you talk to me a little bit of your thoughts and how this kind of plays out? In the LGBT community, it's kind of seen very, either it's feminine driven or male driven. Do you see that there is adequate male kind of vision with your organization? Is it kind of mostly females and mostly male students kind of getting into this?
That's something that we have had to deal with. Our first meeting was great. We had like 45 people attend, and roughly half of them were guys. But after that meeting, our attendance dropped off significantly, and we lost all of the boys. We now have one guy who attends regularly and another one who comes about every other meeting. But we have been having to deal with this stigma where, however odd it might be to say, there is a certain cultural dichotomy where, oh, lesbians are hot, but gay men are just, ugh. And there's a lot of stigma attached for a guy, especially a guy in high school when things are so rough, to be going to GSA meetings. The one guy that we have that attends regularly, we don't talk about it much, but I do believe he's straight. But if a guy attends a GSA meeting, he's automatically labeled as gay, he's automatically put up for harassment. So we've been working very hard to deal with that, but it's an uphill battle.
How do you propose, or how do you think for future people who come into GSA, how can we change that? How can we get more male involvement to have them see that we're not just crazy lesbians, we're really a welcoming community, and we need their input?
Well, we have been, we have our flyers up in the halls. I think that most of that work addressing that specific issue goes on an individual basis, where outside of the meetings, just in the hallways or in the cafeteria or whatever, someone from the GSA might bring it up and they'll say, oh, hey, you're my friend, you're a great person, why don't you come to the GSA meeting, because we've been having some attendance problems lately. And just sort of relying on people knowing us and knowing us as people instead of, crazy lesbians, to sort of rely on that and say, okay, so maybe this isn't so bad since someone that I know has explained it to me.
So with LGBT identified people and with LGBT ally support groups, there seems to be this back and forth between how public should we be, because obviously the more public you are, the more opportunity there is for people to backlash against you.
Right.
You want to protect you want to have some sort of anonymity protection for people who are not quite as comfortable but still are behind the cause. So what do you think is the best method or the best way to put yourself out there, but to also remain somewhat discreet and exclusive?
Right. Well, that is something that we've talked about at the GSA. Our meetings are all anonymous, but most of our members, I think, have made it known to their friends and classmates that they attend the meetings in trying to boost our image as a place that it is not a bad thing to go to. I personally believe that visibility is extremely, extremely important because, if you'll allow me an anecdote, one of the teen suicides that didn't really get a lot of publicity happened very recently, maybe a month ago, and I saw an article about it on AfterLN.com. It was a young couple, a lesbian couple in India, 17 and 19, and they committed suicide together. And the circumstances surrounding their decision to commit suicide made it pretty clear that they had never really seen positive representations of what it meant to be gay. And I think that, it's extremely important to just get the word out, be as visible as possible, and make sure that any lonely gay kid who may be sitting, in front of the television somewhere in America can turn on the TV and there will be a cable replay of The Kids Are All Right, or just something that shows that it is possible to have a healthy, happy, normal life as an LGBT individual, which was why the It Gets Better project was so brilliant, for instance.
Thank you. Speaking of media portrayal and getting the word out there. Obviously, this was a great start by your article in the Watertown Times, and getting that out there, letting people know who PFLAG is and what resources are here. Do you think there would be a next step in kind of increasing that publicity for the GSA?
Well, I'm hoping that this April we're going to be holding that rally in the Canton Park that I mentioned, and I would definitely like to have a reporter or two there, and I'm hoping that that can be the first big thing that we do in the public eye, because it's going to be right in the middle of Canton. It's going to be on a Friday afternoon. There will be all sorts of organizations there. So hopefully that will bring us to a level of visibility where people can say, oh, there's actually these people here, and they're not just flying under the radar all the time. They're actually doing something that's tangible and it's right here in front of us. And then from there, you know, hopefully some people will come in and say, we like what you're doing, let us help. And we can get connected with other organizations, maybe from downstate. I know there's a lot of, you know, a larger chapter of PFLAG. There's the Teenage Task Force in Watertown who we're already working with. Just network with all of these people and use their resources, let them use ours, get the word out.
Great. So, speaking about media influences again, what were the key influences for you? You mentioned your family being very supportive, but what did you have a bombardment of negative images or positive images as you were coming into your sexuality?
Right. Well, there are definitely negative images out there, and we can't deny that. You know, all you have to do is Google homosexuality, and you'll get all of these awful websites about how it's a sin or how it's a disease that needs to be cured. But at the same time, there are a lot of people online and elsewhere who are working to make sure that people know that these are not the only voices out there. Every major psychological organization in America has come out and said homosexuality is not a disease. AfterLN.com is pretty much how I keep up with LGBT news these days. And then there are a lot of just amazing individuals who work on a smaller level. One of the books that was immensely helpful to me when I was thinking about my own coming out process was Fun Home by Alison Bechtel. And it's actually a memoir about her father, but she talks a lot about her own coming out process and her suspicions that he might have been gay as well. So she gave a very good image of what it feels like, and while the book didn't really have a happy ending, she made it clear that, you know, this is something that happens, it's not much you can do about it, but it's okay.
Wow, that's so great. Thanks for sharing all this information. So, we've talked about the kind of the negative, the positive, but obviously there are still a lot of people who are not quite on either level. They're kind of the moderate ground. What can you say to those people? And what can your organization do for those people who are still not sure?
Like the president?
Yes. Just like the president.
Oh, I would like to say a few things to him.
You have the floor.
Well, what I say to people who are on the fence about LGBT issues is usually that, you know, it's kind of a sticky issue because on the one hand, you have, you know, these are people that I know, these are people who are basically okay, but then there's this thing, and I've heard so much about it, that, you know, it's awful and it's bad, and I run into this a lot with Christian friends, having lived in Houston, and you have to be very careful because, of course, we always have to respect the religious beliefs of others. So what I say to them is, you know, I understand that you believe that homosexuality is a sin, and I'm not going to argue that point with you. But there is no reason for you, believing that this is a sin, to reach out and try to hurt others because they are committing this crime. Even if you do not believe that what I am doing is right, I'm your friend, we are all people, and I would like you to just overlook this part of me and sort of look past that, because there's so much more to a person than their sexual orientation that you just need to go forward on the basis of compassion. That is the most important thing you can offer to another human being.
Let's take it to the New York State level. Obviously, New York State is a very hotbed for this issue because New York State has both its liberal and its radical kind of conservative. Obviously, you have New York City, pretty much the birth of such a very strong LGBT movement, and then you have our state regions that are more rural. So obviously, to get to the point where it's being federally recognized, do you think that New York State will ever embrace the same-sex marriage being possible here?
Right. I'm not terribly aware of the climate on this issue outside of St. Lawrence County. But if it's anything like it is here, we do have a lot of challenges to face because there are a lot of people who are very much against this. On the other hand, we also have a lot of people who are working maybe on small and so far not terribly visible levels to help us out with this, and we have, we're working to get the resources in place so that LGBT people don't have to feel like they're isolated and the entire world, the entire country, the entire state is against them. Kirsten Gillibrand, I think is her name, she's one of our representatives right now. She seems to have her head on pretty straight. She's been doing a lot of good work in Congress, and I'm actually on her mailing list. She, I think, is very much in favor of working for LGBT equality, and she's supporting Planned Parenthood in their fight right now, and it looks like she's going to go far in her career, so I can only applaud her.
Great. That's great to hear. So, politics. Obviously, in the last 15 years, there's been a major battle with same-sex marriage and just fighting the discrimination. It's changed so much in such a short period of time. Can you think, or do you think that it's because of the small cell activism, it's because of the letters, the GSA movement? Do you think that's how it came to be, or was it from a top executive level downward?
Well, the last 2 years excluded, I think most of the period of time you were talking about, we didn't have any top-level down support. Obviously, the Bush administration was not behind us on this. And so far, President Obama has been pretty frustrating to watch while he tries to make up his mind. But, even if that's obviously the very highest level, and there are levels of support that we're having within sort of lower but still way up there government. But at the same time, Congress and House of Representatives and most of the people heading up the Army, all of these people who are sort of at the top levels are, and this is a cliche, and it's beginning to change actually, they are for the most part old white men. And old white men are not among the key demographics who are in support of our cause. So I think that this is very much something that's coming from the ground up. And it's coming from PFLAG, it's coming from the GSAs, it's coming from the education which we provide on a lower level, which then filters up, because these people go out into the world after having interacted with us, and they have these ideas that, LGBT equality, gay marriage is okay. They're the ones, I wouldn't be surprised if someday someone from this area became a senator or something like that. So all of the work that we do here reflects on the world afterward, because we carry it out.
So, pretty much this project was about pioneering women. And I know you usually think of, oh, we're first and the best, the brightest. So tell me, how do you feel about being called a pioneering woman in the Gay Straight Alliance movement here in St. Louis County?
Well, it's not how I usually think of myself, but I'm going off to college next year, and I plan to continue this work, and I really, really hope I can live up to that name and have an impact with what I'm doing.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You have